save the world.
Greetings filmmakers alike, my name is Davin Tackett and today I'm with my partner Eliseo Murillo to showcase cartoon shows from the 2000s and explain why these were the best decade for kids entertainment as opposed to older and newer generations. Kids cartoon shows from the 2000s were the best, if not better than what we got from previous and next generations, for they not only had the best animation and unforgettable character designs, but also created unique stories and well-grounded characters with adult themes.
Despite shows such as Avatar: The Last Airbender gravitating towards kids around the ages of 4 to 8, there are some aspects and themes from the show that were based on real-world topics, as the story's main conflict is war within the nations, death or genocide, and even mental and spiritual conflicts like family approval and honor, acceptance of one's path or destiny, and growing up from a boy to a young man.
That being said, Eliseo and I were curious about what other people had to say about cartoon shows since we were born in Generation Z, and so we took the time to interview some of our college friends and family members who were born from previous and newer generations, the Millennials and Alpha.
I was born into Gen Alpha. I really like the 2000 cartoons because they used language that I really like and they didn't restrict it, and the animation was really good and the plot is really nice. My favorite cartoon shows were Regular Show and Clarence because they were both really dumb, but it was in a good way and it made me laugh a lot. I enjoyed Clarence a lot because it was, every time I watched it, the episodes were really stupid and weird, and the art style, I really liked it a lot because it was it looked a lot like the Amazing World of Gumball. It was smooth, but it also looked weird, and it looked really basic, but it was my favorite animation. I watched my cartoons on Disney XD and Cartoon Network, but now sometimes I usually watch HBO Max and Disney Plus and Netflix. Cartoons do have too much rules based on them because most cartoons nowadays, they cannot talk about serious stuff because people would think they'll be sensitive to them. So they need to take those off. The aspects I enjoy from The Amazing World of Gumball is that it looks more smooth, more cleaner. The characters in it, the animation is better than the one from 2000. And with the cartoons nowadays, they're really nice, funny, and really cool.
According to the Millennials. So I watched mostly Nickelodeon. I watched shows like SpongeBob, of course, Fairly Odd Parents, watched Rugrats. I was strictly Nickelodeon a lot as a kid growing up. Why SpongeBob was one of my favorite shows? I would say what made me enjoy it was just kind of as a kid, you're growing into your own mind of your own humor. That's what made you want to keep watching it, when you had your downtime on that Saturday morning on the couch watching Nickelodeon at 9 o'clock. That was just a thing you look forward to as a kid. I think the 2000s are by far the best because of the mix of animation. It kind of just had this diversity of just going every direction, but it still had its overall intent was very strong, And I think for Nickelodeon specifically in the 2000s, it had a lot of community, friendship, family, all triumph together or all have problems and how they're going to solve it. And it just always tied together very, very well. I think the writing was excellent. I feel now cartoon, they're focused so much on the way it looks. I can notice cartoons nowadays are just so bright, and it's I really don't know what's going on. There's no story. It's just things happening with bright color. I can't explain it. But in comparison to the 2000s, it's I said, it's they had an overall goal and intent they're bringing to this audience, and I think that's just nothing really tops it, and it hasn't still to this day. And nowadays generation, yeah, we've come to a world of high censorship and high sensitivity, and I think that maybe kills the creative process between what it was then to now, and it's just, you can tell it's hurting on the cartoon shows nowadays because it doesn't have the same core as it did in the 2000s. Aspects of today cartoons, I guess it looks clear. Technology gets better, but I think probably that's really the only thing I've seen that makes it better is it looks clear.
I was born into Gen Z. I had a few growing up watching that really stuck with me.
Like the first one I remember would be Chowder, Courage the Cowardly Dog. Another standout would probably be Avatar. For the networks that I watched, I really did love Cartoon Network, and I grew up with most of it being on there. But what I was really attracted to as a kid was a late night Nickelodeon. So you had Ren and Stimpy, Pinky and the Brain, Cat and Dog, you know, those type of shows. Even the Rugrats sometimes. They're older perspectives, and they kind of do feel outdated once you're a kid. But two, you know, it's this weird transition where you feel the creativity of it going into the 2000s and the later half of the episodes. Or the series, actually. I do like what they tackle as a Steven Universe when it comes to like representation or even more emotional core. The cartoons now, they go for this emotional element that's at the core of everything. Those shows do have an emotional sense to them, and there's a sensitivity to it, but the sensitivity also ends up hurting the show itself. Asking yes or no questions, it doesn't really have any middle ground. It's either yes this or no that. Back in the 2000s, there was more of an experimentation, and there's an ambiguity to everything in the 2000s, and as television kept going up, we ended up growing with those themes, and I think you could tell it's reflected in people, you know. There's a lot of rules and censorship that goes into it because they're watched with a close hawk eye, but there's also the idea of monetary value that they don't want to lose. They want to include everybody and get as much viewers to the eye, and ends up sacrificing more creative ways of expression that they really had in the 2000s. They're afraid to lose that income. It's not really much about the artists, more about how do you make money off of some things like nostalgia, the crisis of identity, or post-disaster world, things like that now. It's a bit different.
Although I agree that some of these shows were highly entertaining and the animation is high quality, the stories weren't continuous and didn't utilize continuity into the show's finale. One episode would have the main characters go on a space adventure, and the next episode would have the main characters go on a haunted, spooky adventure.
Cartoon shows in the 2000s consist of each episode being a continuation of the previous one, and this allowed the viewers to understand the plot clearer. As for animation, despite not being high definition to the very pixel, the action as well as the character designs were more unique and entertaining to watch on the television screen.
Furthermore, 2000s cartoons allowed kids to see glimpses of how the real world operates, whereas the cartoons from other generations would rather focus on entertaining children than teaching them, or are too afraid to tackle certain topics into laws and regulations that make them considered too graphic or inappropriate for younger audiences.
The 2000s may be gone, but these cartoons still live on as they are available for everyone through streaming services like Netflix, HBO Max, and Disney+. My partner and I just hope to bring newer generations insight on some aspects of what cartoons were like in the yesteryears and grow a demand for stories such as Hazbin Hotel or Hell of a Boss to tackle heavier themes and topics that exist in the world we live in today.